Bitcoin climbed to another record to start the week, further extending recent gains. Trading was subdued over the weekend, but on Monday and Tuesday, Bitcoin has soared once again, breaking $72,000 for the first time. That's obviously an all-time high. The launch of US spot Bitcoin ETFs is still fueling the momentum we are observing in the cryptocurrency sector. We are also seeing Ethereum break $4,000 for the first time since December 2021, soaring 3% yesterday, also fueled by the network's next big tech upgrade, dubbed Dencun. Companies whose performance is tied to the price of Bitcoin are mixed on Monday. Crypto exchange Coinbase advanced gave back earlier gains. Bitcoin proxy Microstrategy rose 4%. That's after the company purchased another 12,000 Bitcoins also. But miners like Marathon Digital are falling, despite being some of the biggest stock market gainers in February. They plummet as investors are digesting the upcoming Bitcoin halving event when mining companies' revenue will be slashed. For more on this now, let's go to Mario Unali. He is a senior portfolio manager at Kairos Partners. He joins us now live from Milan. Great to have you on the program, Mario. So what's been driving these cryptocurrency prices? Is it still the momentum around the launch of ETFs, or is there something else as well?
Yeah, I think that's the key point. The market has been waiting for a very long time for the introduction of these instruments, which allow basically not just the retail market, but also any serious institutional investor to gain exposure to the crypto world in the form of, Bitcoin. Now that's clearly, the number one issue. The second part is the halving that you hinted to. That happens every 4 years, and it is actually about to happen. There should be basically the event for April this year. So basically, the amount of coins you get by solving the same mathematical puzzle decreases by 50%. So that's the key thing that people are looking when they talk about Bitcoin as a proxy of gold, of something that can, compete with fiat currencies in a world where obviously inflation is decreasing the value of the currencies we are used to.
Speaking about this, right, as a proxy for gold, as you said, it's quite right. I think it's fair to say that a lot of analysts were saying it right last year, for instance, that Bitcoin would have served as an inflation hedge. But has it been the case, do you think? Because in fact, we saw that Bitcoin was losing momentum right when inflation was really high. And now that inflation is coming down, Bitcoin prices are rising. So can this be a store of value? Can this represent a store of value function, in your opinion?
It can't. It can't so far. In theory, it obviously plays as an inflation hedge because for the very reason that we explained. The supply is limited, and that makes a big difference compared to fiat currencies. But on the other hand, when you look at the behavior of the asset in times of inflation, it has behaved like, for example, like unprofitable tech stocks. So there is no correlation between inflation and Bitcoin. There hasn't been so far. So investors should look at it in exactly the same way that they were looking at it before, like a speculative asset, something that should be, handled very carefully, and something that can go up a lot, but can also correct in a massive way, like we have seen, many times over in the last 15 years. So I think from the purely bottom-up fundamental standpoint, nothing has really changed after the introduction of ETFs. The very fact that you can access the asset more easily doesn't really change its nature, and so it's something that once again should be handled quite carefully.
Right, because we were speaking about inflation, and it's obviously a big day of the CPI. What is your expectations in that sense? We've seen inflation coming down, not so much the core inflation, more so the headline inflation. What's your expectations?
I think the market is expecting something like 0.4% for the monthly inflation on a CPI basis and 0.3% on the core. It's actually a quite important inflation print for February because we are coming off of a surprise on the upside for the January number, which actually surprised the Fed, surprised analysts, and actually surprised the market. But the market, because we are in a bull market, everyone decided to ignore how bad the January data was. So either we get confirmation of the downtrend of inflation in February, or we should get probably a little bit less confident that the Fed is on a trajectory to decrease interest rates starting from June. So we will be looking closely at this number today.
Mario Unali, great insights. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Now let's take a quick look at some of the top stories from around the world. Venezuela's exports to the United States have surged in 2023 after Washington eased some sanctions on the country. According to the Venezuelan American Chamber of Commerce and Industry, shipments to the US jumped more than eightfold to more than $3.5 billion. Oil exports made up 90% of the total. Shares in Xiaomi jumped as much as 10% after the Chinese smartphone maker announced the launch date of its first electric vehicle. The company will start deliveries of its SU7 model on March 28th, making its foray into the increasingly competitive EV sector. Xiaomi has pledged to invest $10 billion in its car business over a decade, with the aim of becoming one of the world's top 5 automotive manufacturers. Reddit is aiming to raise more than $500 million in what would be the largest initial public offering by a major social network in 5 years. The IPO could value the company at as much as $6.4 billion, well below the $10 billion it achieved in its most recent private fundraising in 2021. In a filing, Reddit disclosed that its net loss narrowed to around $90 million in 2023. And Ford Motors has agreed to pay $365 million to resolve U.S. allegations that it devised a scheme to avoid higher duties. The car maker was accused of violating a federal tariff law by misclassifying cargo vans imported from Turkey between 2009 and 2013. The deal is one of the largest customs penalty settlements in recent history.